The sound of Somewhere Over the Rainbow serves as an introduction to this guitar great, Ritchie Blackmore. By the spring of 1962, he'd been auditioned by screaming Lord Sutch and recruited into his bizarre band.
62, 63, we were into a very heavy kind of rock, hard type of Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, Screaming Lord Sutch and Savages. Very hard type of basic rock with a rhythm and blues bass. And then the Beatles came out and it was all harmonies, along with the Hollies. And one had to sing, and I didn't sing. I could hardly talk at the time. And so I was into just playing the guitar and very hard rock and roll, distorted guitar solos, of which were out of vogue at the time. It was all pleasant vocal harmonies. And that lasted about 4 years, until Hendrix and the Cream.
Nevertheless, his initial sojourn with Sutch's Savages lasted no more than a few months before Blackmore found himself being singled out by record producer Joe Meek to join the Outlaws.
The Savages actually kicked me out because I wasn't quite good enough. They'd had some really brilliant lead guitarists. One, I think, was Bernie Watson. And then Carlo and the bass player were going on to join Cyril Davis and the All-Stars. And I was left kind of to get on with something else. So Joe Meek heard about this and said, "Oh, how about joining my band, the Outlaws?" So I said, "Okay, sounds good to me." I mean, the Outlaws were more well-known than the Savages, so I was quite pleased. And once I joined the Outlaws, about 2 weeks later, the Savages came back, Cyril Davis's lot, and said, "How about rejoining? We've had second thoughts." And I thought, well, I can't, obligated to this band now. So I was lucky.
During his time with the Outlaws, which was a couple of years, Blackmore began to make as much of a name for himself as a wild man as he did as a musician. It's said that he was equally deadly with a flower bomb as he was on guitar. Amongst the Joe Meek artists he played for in the early 60s was Heinz.
Whenever your troubles are heavy, beneath the stars you play your guitars, just like Eddie. But they'll always find me ready upon the hill, playing still, just like Eddie. So whenever you're sad, whenever you're blue, whenever your troubles are heavy, beneath the stars you play your guitars, just like Eddie.
Heinz, and a top 5 record from 1963, just like Eddie. The Eddie in question being Eddie Cochran. Although a band in their own right, the Outlaws also served as Joe Meek's session band. The result was that they played with a wide range of artists and on a lot of hit records.
There was a point in time when I would put the radio on and I would, out of 10 records, there must have been 6 where the Outlaws were backing. And I would always hear the record and go, well, I've heard that before. And I'd suddenly realise it was me on the record, but with somebody else singing that wasn't present at the time we did the session and had been dubbed on later. It was good discipline, as long as you don't take it too far. I think session work, I did it for about a year, which is long enough. Then you start to get a little bit too clinical. Sometimes, even now, I find that I'm a little bit too clinical. I get into a studio and I think I'm doing a session and everything has to be perfect and the atmosphere goes. Whereas someone like Hendrix just went in and was always having like a party going on, which is the way to do it, really.
Although he devoted a lot of energy to what you might call practical jokes, Blackmore also spent a lot of time working at his guitar technique.
People say the word dedicated. I don't think I was dedicated to playing. I just loved playing the guitar. I felt that I had to improve on the guitar. And that's why I practiced so much. But unfortunately, the bands I was in weren't very musical. I was practicing 5 hours, 6 hours a day. and they could hardly play their instruments at all. So I was always in this weird position of playing three-chord music and trying to improvise and extemporize in such a way which I thought was quite good at the time, but a very simple bad backing going on. I thought maybe the audience must have picked up on that and thought, why is he in this band? We'd be slowing down, speeding up and playing the wrong chords, and then there'd be a very good solo, maybe. Well, I thought it was a very good solo.
One of those solos can be found on what's a rather obscure record, an Outlaws B-side called Shake With Me.
Joe Meek had said to me, go crazy, play a very weird solo, bend the notes and play with lots of distortion and a very freaky effect. And I went, okay. And it came off. It was just by pure chance that it came off, more than technique. I was quite proud of that solo in its time, which was 63. And when I met Jeff Beck in 67 in the Ship in Water Street, he told me how much Hendrix had liked that particular track. So I was very pleased with that, as I was a Hendrix fanatic and a Jeff Beck fanatic.
Well, come on, boy. Grab your partner and shout for joy. It's a dance that everyone can do. Come on, let me shake with you. Whoa, yeah.
Definitely a case of a solo putting a song in the shade. The 18-year-old Ritchie Blackmore with the Outlaws. Between 1965 and 67, Blackmore shuffled backwards and forwards between Neil Christian's band and the Savages.